And happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Woohoo. Are you ready, Karen?
I am.
Yep. Here we go.
Hey, all work, no pleasure.
Welcome.
I ain't here to make friends, big stepper.
From France.
Bad guy, Heath Ledger. Ready for whatever, I'll be front and center. Don't fly too close to the sun, your body chopped up by propellers. Came in arrogant, but left out in a stretcher. The comparison, y'all know y'all couldn't replicate it. Chilling in the desert, I'm good under pressure. Hold it down, look at what we found. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Let's go 100 miles. On the ground, with me to the clouds, never coming down. That's the crown on me, wear it proud, show 'em what we found. Stick around with me, hold it down, look at what we found. It's a marathon,
stick around to find out what we found.
Never coming down. That's the crown on me, wear it proud. They was talking about all work, no pleasure. I ain't here to make friends, big stepper. Hey, bad guy, Heath Ledger. Ready for whatever, I'll be front and center. Quick to sever, however, whoever.
Yeah, the music isn't exactly typical TIR. Chris thought he would mix it up a little bit on this Halloween day before the evening. Just a little bit. And we wanted to come to you guys and do a YouTube video today before Halloween tonight when everybody's busy with their kids and their grandkids, going out trick-or-treating, or maybe you're going to a party, or maybe you're hanging out with work friends or neighbors or whoever. So we thought, you know what, let's hit everybody up in the afternoon. If you're seeing this live, thank you for being here. It's always great to have you guys. If you're seeing this on a replay, happy Halloween, and I hope you are enjoying it.
Stick around, it's going down. It's coming down. Well, welcome. What did you think? My sweetheart, I thought it was cool. What did you guys think?
I know. I'm trying to read chat and see what people are like. Some people said, do I have the right channel?
Yeah, I mean, just for, to mix it up here on Halloween. And we had great things happening. You know what? I'm very eclectic, to be honest. I spent so much time on the street. I absolutely, I don't know. I'm not a big rap guy with any of the cussing or any of that stuff. But I do like, old school stuff like that. Stick around, hang around. It's going down to find out, what's happening.
Definitely the old school stuff, but yeah.
It is.
Cleaner rap. Exactly.
Okay. So on this Halloween, first of all, I need to go public real fast. I will not be commenting on the Michael Vaughn case. So folks are going to be asking all over the place, but I can't. For obvious reasons, I was involved in that situation, so I'm not going to be able to talk about it. So that's out of the way. And then they did make an arrest. Stacy Wandra has been charged, and we'll see how that's going to unfold. And then today, we learned yesterday a ruling came down in the Barry Morphew case about live streaming. And so we want to welcome everybody today to talk about that briefly, go over that, and also let you know this Sunday we have a very special program coming up. We have Steve and Christy coming with Dr. Bricado, and we're going to talk about the healing process and all of the things that they're going through. As you know, a lot more information keeps coming out, and so we're going to give them a safe place to talk about that information. So don't miss that. Go ahead, Karen.
We're really looking forward to having Christy and Steve Gonsalves with us. Again, they were on our show months and months ago, long before the plea deal, long before the sentencing, back in the day when we thought that the killer was going to be going to trial. So anyway, we were very excited to have Christy and Steve Gonsalves back with us this Sunday. We're going to have Dr. Gary Bricado with us. It should be a really great show. So hope you guys can be with us for that.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show for sure. And then also we have in the pipeline, we have Vernon Gabert, who has written a lot of these homicide books here behind us. We've got him coming up as a guest, and many others. As you know, we hope to bring the most interesting guest as well as the most accurate information to the situation. Larry Miliete is going to be going to trial in March of next year. There's been another continuance. I had a chance to see Mary Chris last night, and they're doing well. They, as you know, they got full custody of the kids, which is amazing. And the children are thriving. They are just absolutely exploding in love, and they're surrounded by an amazing, amazing family, as you can imagine. So as always, we want to thank our mods who have made it here on this Friday. Miss Sophia, Maui Girl, Mimi J2, Teresa M, and Laura Waldy, excuse me. We are so grateful to each and every one of you, ladies. I know we don't say it enough, but we cannot do any of this at all without you. So we're so thankful for you. And then, of course, all of our subscribers and those of you who come into our chat and keep it classy. We're so very appreciative of you and our members here, not only on the YouTube side, but on Patreon. We can't thank you enough. We definitely cannot thank you enough. Did I miss anybody, Karen?
I think you covered it. You're good. Should we jump into this afternoon's topic?
Yes, absolutely. And what do you think of my little dancing skeleton?
I think it's a great touch for Halloween. We may have to pull him out post Halloween, depending on what we're talking about going forward.
Yep, for sure. So let's see what we've got here. Do we have any Morphew updates freestyle in freestyle rap?
Oh, that's a good one.
I know,
that
right?
Would be good.
I don't know. I got to get in the rhythm. Give me a couple minutes, Toyo Toys, and I'll fire something up. I'm sure. You know me. Karen's like, I only get him out for 72 hours at a time. So, but that's one of the that's one of the ways this girl fell in love with me, was my sense of humor.
That is very true. That is true, and we try to laugh a lot. Listen, if you're doing anything in the true crime space, let's be honest, you need some comic relief. You have to look for those lighthearted moments. And Chris is actually really hysterical. Many of you who have been with us since day one, you know that. You've seen trickles of that. I know on some of the shows that we do, and I don't want to get too far off topic here, but when you have your old colleagues on, talking about, the crime beat and the cop beat and all that stuff, your humor comes out. But suffice it to say, Chris is very, very funny. He keeps me laughing.
I was the class clown growing up through my school years and then into law enforcement. They all thought I was nuts. If we got any records people out there, if you're following us, they will tell you that I was the guy that would keep walking by the door and make funny faces from the records department or the counter. And then I'd go, below the counter like I'm on an escalator, and they'd all crack up. But it was fun. And I try to keep it light for obvious reasons, for reasons like today and rulings like this. We try to at least say it the way it is. All right.
Definitely. And so let me just say, if you're just joining us, welcome. We are talking about a ruling by a Colorado judge who has banned live streaming of the Barry Morphew murder case going forward. So we're going to talk about it. We'd love to hear your comments if you think it's a good thing or if you disagree and think it's a bad thing. We want to hear from you. And we are hearing Buddy bark in the background right now. So, and
you notice we put Buddy up above us up there. So we don't, a lot of folks have been saying, where's Buddy? Where's Buddy? And, that nut job's out there on the back patio right now, barking at another dog going by, as you can hear. So he's here. He does have an opinion, and it is valued like everybody's. So we'll see if he's going to, chase any cats or anything like that going down. Okay. So on a serious note, right? Not to say that we keep saying, the YouTube community and the true crime community, I think we have some of the most brightest and most amazing people that follow true crime. This is my personal opinion. So I'm going to go on a soapbox just for a moment. I think each and every one of you are amazing people. I really believe that. I've met so many, and I'm not speaking for Karen because I know she has her own feelings, but we have met so many amazing people and through this community, and it was most recently brought into totality and a clarity when we attended CrimeCon in Denver. We got to meet so many of you, so many of our friends. I mean, they gave us, little trinkets and gifts. I mean, this is on my desk. We got gold hearts. We can't say enough. And I know I'm forgetting people, so I don't want to say too much more because we do love and appreciate each and every one of you who follow our channel. But then on the other side of the true crime community, there is just some, just some craziness, absolutely craziness that goes on. And this ruling today, unfortunately, they single out just a small piece of a very large community with over 20,000 plus podcasters, news people, etc. Karen and I come to this community in a very unique way, with my background and her background as a journalist. I mean, she's actually a professional journalist. She came, to YouTube with, the credentials. I mean, and, she's got a degree in journalism. She worked, for dailies, the LA Times being the biggest daily that she worked with. And then she's won many awards for writing. So she keeps me on the straight and narrow because I don't come from that world. And she's always constantly saying, okay, look, we've got to stay above the fray here. And that is really important. And this ruling today, I think, brings this even further to front and center. So that said, we're going to read the ruling that the judge made in the district court in Alamosa County, Colorado. And we're going to talk about it briefly from two positions. What this means, from a YouTuber's position, and a former homicide position, to from the other side is from an investigative journalist position, and what this really means, from her opinion. And how will this impact, if anything, and is it done, in our opinions? So, Karen, I mean, what's really taken place so far from what you say? A Colorado judge has banned live streaming of the Barry Morphew case. Let's break that down. Is that a good thing or not?
Right out of the gate, it's never a good thing. There's two things that all journalists detest for any kind of murder trial. That is blocking transparency, which would be banning cameras from the courtroom, whether it's live streaming or, let's say, a pool camera like Court TV, and then a gag order, right? I mean, I feel like our community we just got dragged through 2.5 years of a gag order with the Kohberger case. At the end of the day, who did it help? Who did it serve? Of course, everyone's going to have their own opinion. It's arguable, but I don't like banning cameras, and I don't like installing widespread gag orders. Now, I get it. The accused in this country and our system always is a presumption of innocence until proven guilty, going through the trial process. That being said, we're going to get into this, but today with social media being, everyone's on social media, everyone's giving an opinion, and people have strong opinions, people can get nasty. I think the courts in general are fearful, my opinion, fearful of social media and what it stirs up or can stir up. And there's still a very hard differentiation between mainstream media covering cases and social media folks, like all of us, covering this. I've got my foot in both worlds because I was part of the mainstream media for my job for years covering trials. But now I'm on YouTube. We're independent media. So I have kind of a different look at that as well. But jumping into this, I think it's interesting to hear what this judge, how she spells out what her reasons are. And we have to bring this to you guys. You guys have to see and read this for yourself and hear what position this judge is taking. And then you guys can decide for yourself.
So this motion goes before the court, and it is an unopposed motion, which means the prosecution didn't care either. They just said, yeah, we're in, whatever is going to happen. Okay, but here is right from the get-go, this matter came before me on the defendant's unopposed motion to cease unmonitored live stream of court proceedings. Now, this is a district court, but this motion could impact other situations because the title of this, unopposed motion to cease unmonitored live stream of court proceedings. Now, she mentions her case, but hang on for a moment. Somebody's calling.
Chris will be right back.
She mentions Barry's case, but other attorneys down the road, if this holds, will pick up on this particular motion, and they will try to create a trending type of situation. Now, the good news is mass media, NBC, Court TV, Fox, all of these huge conglomerates of media, they're not going to stand by and just say, no, you're not kicking us out of the courtroom. So there may be another motion coming down the pipeline, and I think the judge realizes that because she's going to mention a couple of things that obviously you can't stop freedom of the press. And quite frankly, today's world is equal to, I mean, back in the 30s and during the time of gangsters and all of that stuff in early America, remember they'd have the big, flash bulbs, and they'd be taking the photographs, not only during the perp walk, but they would scream at the defendants as they're walking by. So first things first, the Constitution of the United States matters. Number one. That is the very first thing we need to keep in mind while we read this particular motion today. Okay. It's the second thing. We are in a time where, like the music industry, vinyl records are a thing of the past. When streaming came in, the music industry screamed, hey, wait a minute, how are we going to keep the genie in the bottle? I.e. control mechanisms. How do we get, royalties off of people that are going to play our music through streaming services? And of course, they worked that out. They figured it out. BMI figured it out, who is the monitor of, royalties, etc. And today, like anything else, we are in a new media. It's a new world. Citizen journalists are standing on the streets with phones, live streaming instantaneously, just like we are right now around the world. We are around the world. We have people from France here as we sit here this morning. And it's a new place. And the courts are figuring it out and trying to figure out, okay, how do I weigh the presumption of innocence, which is, entitled to the defendant, and how do I simultaneously weigh the First Amendment in relationship to that presumption of innocence? How do we give them a fair trial? And, this is a time of citizens who are streaming live events and real-time events. And so there's no filters in between it. Some folks understand that. My wife understands that extensively. And she has helped me, be a better narrator here on YouTube. There are other journalists out there, professionals, law and crime. Those folks get it. They're, Court TV, they get it. And it's important as we read this that Just because one person is mentioned does not mean that one person's intent was to harm the totality of every other live streamer. We may not agree with it. We may not like the person. We may have, variances of opinions. But, there are some things that, quite frankly, I've seen on YouTube where, I've been attacked and others. Okay? It doesn't make it true. Because that valve, there is no valve. And that's what the judge is going to say here. There are no valves. So, I mean, one of the things she said here, Karen, was she made her ruling because she does not like the amount of negative comments people make. And she specifically mentioned what?
Well, to that I say, so what?
I
Okay.
agree.
Right. There is a First Amendment that allows other people's opinions unfavorable, negative, bad opinions. I'm reading this, I'm looking what we have up on screen, and, she's the judge and laying this out, is making this point that, Barry Morphew, his case has garnered an unbelievable amount of attention. His name pops up in search engines. To that I say, so what? So does, let's go down the road, Alec Murdoch, right? The killer from Idaho, whose name I'm not mentioning. Go down the list, okay? So she's pointing out that there's a huge amount of interest in true crime genre. Okay, to that I say, welcome to 2025 and going forward. This is where we're at. And Barry Morphew's not alone in being, Luigi Mangione. We could keep going. There's tons and tons of people. That doesn't mean that you shut down transparency inside the court. In fact, I would argue to have the court's live stream camera, as opposed to, let's say, Court TV puts a pool camera in there, like we saw with the Idaho killer case, the Idaho 4 case, actually gives the court control over what people are seeing, in addition to hearing it and viewing it for themselves. So again, can you tell I really just totally disagree with this judge's opinion and stance, and of course, her ruling on this. And I would just say that, Chris, to your point earlier, I would assume that Court TV and big mass media like ABC News, et cetera, they may be filing motions against this, and they may be successful in getting the judge to say, okay, we can have one pool camera in the courtroom. I hope that's the case. This trial is not coming up next week or next month. We have some time, but yes, he is going to be, there's, status conference coming up this next week. I believe it's Monday. And this does have to be figured out. I don't like the idea that the judge has shut down the public from being able to see the process. And also the fact that the prosecutor, that the state has gone along with no transparency, that's really chilling. The whole reason we have cameras in the courtroom anyway is for the public to be able to, it's a check and balance on our system for us to be able to say, is the state bringing erroneous charges against the accused? We want to see the evidence. That's, sunshine on all this and transparency. So the fact that the prosecution in the Barry Morphew case is going along with this is quite disturbing.
Yeah, and look what's happened just in the amount of information that flowed out of Florida during the sunshine laws. And we just used the Stephen Stearns case for an example. That was going to be a death penalty case. Yet the authorities there, because of the law in Florida, they opened up everything. YouTubers had access to it. The mainstream media had access to it. Podcasters had access to it. What she's saying here is she's narrowing the scope of of a particular YouTuber. Okay. But she's mentions then, but there are many others like podcasters, other YouTubers, etc. But she fails to mention, the totality of the 20,000 plus true crime genres or true crime, folks out there, okay, who also now just got cut off at the kneecap for now.
Let's go through some of this so we can see what she's saying.
Okay, yeah, let's take a look at that and peel back some of the layers. And as we go through here, Karen, stop and let's jump out, or just stop me as we're going through of what jumps out to you, okay?
Yeah.
All right, of unmonitored live streams of court proceedings, blah, 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 filed on such a date. The defendant's motion attempts to address violations of Colorado statute and Chief Justice Directive 2302 concerning the recording of live streamed criminal proceedings for the following reasons. Motion 009 is hereby granted. So she starts right off and says, I'm going to grant this, and these are the reasons why. Both this case and the prior one against Barry Morphew have garnered an unbelievable amount of local, state, national, and international attention. If you enter Mr. Morphew's name into any internet search engine, many thousands of results return. This is perhaps not surprising, considering the explosion of interest in the true crime genre with the development of podcast and streaming television in the last decade. Wait till she realizes in 2 years AI and how powerful that's going to be. What do you think about this so far? I see you leaning forward.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going. Let's get to the good stuff.
There are more than 20,000 true crime podcasts in existence and available on free podcast services like Apple Podcast and Spotify. Several podcasts have already covered the case against Mr. Morphew in some capacity, but this level of interest has also increased the level of difficulty a court such as mine has in protecting the rights to a fair trial and the safety of those involved in these sort of cases.
Okay, let me stop you for just a minute. She may think it's difficult. Plenty of others have figured it out. Case in point, Judge Cliff Newman, he had the Alec Murdaugh double murder trial. Same type of, tons of media interest, local, national, international. And guess what? Judge Newman figured it out. He had cameras in the courtroom. And guess what? The defendant got a fair trial. It can be done. So I don't know if this judge is fairly new. I don't know if this is inexperience. I don't know if this is fear and panic ahead of time. But taking away live streaming or a camera in the courtroom has absolutely nothing to do with the level of interest in the case. There's only going to be more. Okay, so you can make that argument. That argument can go either way. Okay, by not having a camera in the courtroom, what? No one's going to write about, do a video, do a podcast about the case? Of course not. Ridiculous. Let's keep going.
Exactly. There have been 2 court dates in this matter since the grand jury returned an indictment against Mr. Morphew on June 18, 2025. Both have been available to the public via the state's live streaming service. Well, it's not a service. You have to do it. The public has a right to know. I mean, it's as if, you're doing the public a favor.
Well, she does say that, but to my understanding, with the Delphi case and the Richard Allen, there was 0 live streaming of that. We had to rely on the reporters in the courtroom.
Yeah, and Diddy was the same way.
Same, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Right. And but outside of the courtroom was all the press was set up, and every break, everybody ran outside and said what the testimony was and all the sketches and everything like that. So they weren't controlling the flow of information coming out of the courtroom. All they did was control the moment it was said. But still, people twisted it up and, reported on it, etc. And here she says, following the September 2nd, 2025 status conference, it came to my attention that an individual with a YouTube channel called JLR Investigates posted a recording of the status conference, including the admonition that there shall be no recordings made. JLR Investigates unlawfully recording included comments from some of the 17,000 plus people who viewed the unlawful recording. Some of the commentary, including from JLR, takes issue with the constitutional requirements that the defendant is presumed innocent until proven otherwise, propounds several conspiracy theories concerning this case, and threatens violence against me, attorneys for both sides, and others, including several victims.
Let's stop right there. Stop scrolling. What she did was she really kind of conflated two things here. Okay. Scroll back, please, honey. So what she's saying was, this particular YouTuber shared the live stream when he shouldn't have. Okay. And the comments were vicious. That's what she's saying. And now she's conflated that with threats of violence against her, attorneys for both sides, and others, including the victims. Okay. Let's stop right there. That's a whole separate matter if that actually took place, if these are just vile comments, or if they all actually had threats. Okay. I'm not condoning if there was vile behavior and comments and all of that. But what she did was, do you see what I'm saying? She conflates it and she puts it all together. The problem I have with her calling out the one YouTube channel is that she says it's, quote, unlawful, but at the same time, which is heavy coming from a judge, right? But at the same time, there's not going to be any charges pressed. And so, and then she says, well, there was other YouTube channels that unlawfully recorded it and live streamed it. Okay. So if that's the case, then is she punishing everybody else? Which certainly seems like what she is doing here. You can keep going, Chris.
Yeah, this is a broad stroke. She uses JLR Investigates as a catalyst to shoot a cannonball at other unknown, unnamed YouTube channels that apparently have broken the law. And she says it there. YouTube channel that unlawfully recorded and then posted live stream hearings in this matter. So what the judge does is go out and say, hey, and down here in the subnote here, number 2, okay, it says defendant's motion has discussed the conduct of another YouTube channel that similarly displayed unlawful recordings, live stream proceedings, and channels, that's plural, that recorded other concerning behavior related to this case. If they didn't want any of the hearings to be had or seen, then they could have done that. And the judge could have said at that point, you know what, these hearings, pretrial hearings, are not going to be available to the public unless you're sitting in the courtroom. Instead, though, she has taken a broad stroke and said, not the reason we're not going to be able to see live streaming during the trial is because these YouTubers screwed it up in the pretrial hearings. Okay. And I'm going to start with one, she says, and then I'm going to blanket that across the spectrum here so that nobody can see it at all for this courtroom.
And at the same time, in my opinion, I think she's also she's trying to kind of shame the YouTubers. Okay.
Of course
Look
she
at
is.
this. Because she says she refers to the people who took that live stream and broadcast it and weren't supposed to. Okay. She calls them offending observers. If you're calling somebody an offender, then name the crime that they did and follow up with it. Don't say they're unlawful or broke the law, but we're not going to do anything about it. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, because she does. She says these individuals, including JLR investigation, but she doesn't tell you anybody else. So let's go back in time with the former district attorney and the first arrest of Barry Morphew. What happened in that case, Karen? And she fails to mention any of that in this particular motion. Where
she alludes to it, but she doesn't go into that at all.
Of course not. Of course not. So remind everybody about what happened early on in Barry's case.
So Barry Morphew arrest 1.0 was done in Chaffee County with Linda Stanley. She was the DA at the time. She has actually been disbarred, prevented from practicing in Colorado, and basically kicked out of the state for being able to be a practicing attorney. What happened? Many things. She was brought up on a list of ethics charges. One of them was talking with other YouTube channels about the case as it was going on.
She talked about filing evil. She went on Mike's show and talked about the case, and it got her disbarred out of the state of Colorado.
That's true. Yep, and that's well documented. It's all over the internet. Yeah. So at the same time, I should say before this, they arrested Barry on the murder charge, and then they were going forward on the eve of his trial. They dismissed charges with prejudice, and then a year and a half later, Suzanne's remains were found. And then another year and a half goes by, and Barry got arrested for the second time in June of this year.
Now, why that's interesting and important is Barry Morphew turns to the exact people that she is going to prevent from coming into the courtroom to bring justice to his cause at that moment. He turns to social media and the media to announce, and so do his attorneys. They all turn to the media and say, we're suing the cops, we're suing everybody, you name it, we're suing them. And it was a huge, I think, $19 million request lawsuit. So the people that she is now condemning are the very people that the defendant was going to use for justice.
And hold that thought for 1 second, Chris. Not for nothing. Apparently, Barry Morphew was able to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars on, it was either the GoFundMe or I forget what that other one is. And the money that he raised via social media, right? All these donations helped get him out on bail right now.
Right.
The guy's got on an ankle bracelet awaiting his murder trial. So that's another example of how Barry was happy to use social media to raise money for his defense. Yeah.
And so what she's doing here is the very people, and there are people that, defend him to this day, which is fine. He's presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And she's trying to balance out what a fair trial means, but that's in the courtroom. Okay. You can't say in the courtroom, I'm not getting representation appropriately in a social media context around the world when me, i.e. Barry, is using the exact context that he wants prevented or his attorneys want prevented from coming into the courtroom. So the judge, I think, when there are going to be arguments, I think somebody's going to come back and say, well, wait a minute. You can't just restrict us. And that's going to be a problem for Barry. Remember, it was Barry Morphew who went on social media and said, oh, Suzanne, where are you? Please return. I will do anything. It was his nephew it was Trevor that came up with the idea of, Barry, you need to get on social media and tell the world that you're searching for Suzanne. That power of social media, this judge is trying to control. And quite frankly, that's exactly why I've always called it the beast. You need to feed the beast with controlled flow of information, with control of flow of information. And so in this particular section here, where pausing the availability of the public's access to live stream does not run afoul of the constitutional rights to a public trial. Okay. Defendants accused of criminal conduct are entitled to a public trial by both the United States and Colorado constitutions. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. That's the Sixth Amendment. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall have the right to a speedy trial. The right to
a speedy public trial, Chris. A public trial.
Correct.
That's our point. It's public by live streaming it.
Correct. Yes. Thank you. Go ahead. Yeah. The right to a public trial belongs largely to the accused. And a reminder, Judge, the accused use the medium of social media to launch his messaging. So he started it. And the true crime community of 20,000 plus podcasters picked up on it.
Right. And to put a fine pin to that point, let's compare and contrast somebody like Larry Milletti. Larry Milletti is accused of killing his wife, Maya Milletti. Larry has not been on social media. There is no GoFundMe for his defense. Okay. He's been quiet since he's been arrested 2 years ago, plus whatever it is. Okay. So kind of compare and contrast that. You have the complete opposite with this case, with the Morphew case. He's been out there, to Chris's point. And when you do that, you bring about more comments on social media as opposed to somebody who isn't out there doing it. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. So this may bite him on an appeal if the major networks get in there, because they're going to argue for a pool camera, a single pool camera. And then every YouTuber, including us probably, will peel from that pool camera and do our own shows. Okay. However, I take exception to the fact that she just points out one person out of 20,000 programs and says, well, this one person and a couple I'm not going to tell you about, but they're out there. Okay. She says, the judge says, and you know, that's not a clear window into the 20,000 who are following the rules. And that's why I think this opinion is kind of tilted, but that's just my opinion. This is so that the public may see the defendant is fairly dealt with and not unjustly condemned, and that the presence of interested spectators may be, may keep his triers keenly alive to a sense of their responsibility and the importance of their functions, i.e. the jury. With you know, a gallery of folks in the courtroom, the presupposition here is that they will make sure that the jury is doing their duty and that the presumption of innocence is laid out correctly and that the jury is following the evidence. Okay, which is fine. That's fine. That, you know, 99% of jurors take jury duty extremely serious.
Chris, let me jump in here for a second.
Yep.
There's the role of the jury, and then there's the role of the media. The media is the representatives of the public. When we say a speedy public trial or a fair public trial, so there's two, we're talking about different sets of eyes. The jury has their instructions and their purpose, but the media is, again, a check and balance on the system to oversee it. Okay. So quick example. Let's say the state, the prosecution has erroneous charges against the accused. A jury's going to weigh at the end of the matter, right, and decide guilt or innocence. But along the way, the media can comment. And today newspapers have been around for 100, 200 years, but the media can comment and the media can jump in on whether or not the transparency is, whether or not the fairness is going on at the same time. So I would just kind of make that fine point that we, obviously the jury, you're talking about the jury, but in lieu of, 2 million people lining up to sit in to watch to watch a trial, that's the role of the media, the representative for the people. So I see that that's the piece of this that we're talking about. And that's why I think it's crucial and critical that there be a camera of some sort in there so the rest of us can view and come to our own decisions of whether or not justice is being served.
Great point. Contrary to the purposes for which the offending observers have used it, the right to a public trial exists for the purpose of preserving an accused right to the presumption of innocence and ensuring legal professionals provide the best, most competent service possible to the communities we serve. So basically, in that just reading that statement, that's ego. That's Thompson making a decision against the will of the victim's family. No, I want to talk to you about the death penalty. Let's put it on the table. And Thompson's like, well, we know it's an unpopular decision, but we're going to make it anyway. Okay. That's ego. I think sometimes these judges, forget that they sit on the bench for the Constitution. They don't sit there because, somebody's going to say something bad about the attorneys. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that's another show. How much did Ann Taylor make in Brian Kohberger's case? What, at least $1.5 million? How much is the attorneys? How much are they going to make? $275 an hour in the Tyler Robinson case, right, Karen?
Absolutely. That's significantly more than Ann Taylor made in the Kohberger case.
Yeah. What makes them so special? Seriously, what makes them so special? That, they ensure legal professionals provide the best. Why? Because they're being monitored by the public? They're being scrutinized by the public? That's the whole purpose of the public being in the courtroom. To look at the attorneys and go, that guy's a dirtbag. Or, you know what? That's a good attorney. I want that guy. Okay. all attorneys aren't created equal. And so, like you're saying, there's a bad YouTuber. Well, guess what? There are bad legal professionals as well. A lot of them. Trust me. I'm in the system. I see it every day. Okay. And to say that, well, these, we have to provide the best, most competent services. You mean like the DA that just got disbarred? In Barry's case, her? Is that who you're referring to here? Instead of just throwing social media under the bus, why don't you look in the mirror and, throw the rocks at the legal system first? Whosoever among you hath not sinned, let them cast the first stone. It's ridiculous.
Okay, let's keep going.
The right to a public trial is not without its parameters or limitations, and it can be waived. Even constitutional rights can be waived, although I should indulge every reasonable presumption against such a waiver. So she's obviously very anti-law enforcement, because she's telling the public here, if you're ever arrested, don't ever talk to the cops, waive your Miranda rights. That's what she just said. She is not pro-Constitution and down the middle. She just said right here, every constitutional right can be waived, although I should indulge every reasonable presumption against such a waiver. Meaning, when the cops say you have the right to remain silent, anything you say can will be used against you in the court of law. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to represent you free of charge. Do you understand these rights as I've explained to you? Yes. Having these rights in mind, do you wish to speak with me now? No. That's what she just said. Every time saying no. What if you're innocent? What if you're innocent? Not in Colorado, apparently. She is pro defense right from the get-go. I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you the rulings are all going to go into the defense's bucket. How do we know that? Because in the very beginning, she said the prosecution's on board with this. She brings it out. She brings it out. I do not find that in making a request to disallow live streaming of the proceedings, the defendant is waiving his right to a public trial. Well, did the defendant tell you that? Generally, but he is volunteering to have limitations placed on that right. Public trials do not only belong to the accused. Public access to criminal trials permits the public to participate in and serve as a check upon the judicial process as an essential component in our structure of government. And you know what she'll say is guys like me who are criticizing her, she's going to say, well, see, he's making my point. Because they don't like to be held in checks and balances. Okay? You don't get a district judge, even a federal judge, to tell the president of the United States, as long as he's constitutionally within the bounds of law, that he can't do something. That's why there are separations of powers. The judicial and the executive branch are two separate branches. And these judges who feel that they're above, any type of ruling they want to make, feel that they can just do this. Okay. And it's a constant going back to the system and having these judges reversed. Public trials do not only belong. Okay. The benefit of the public of access to criminal proceedings includes allow the public to see that the accused is fairly dealt with. Correct. Ensuring the judges and prosecutors discharge their duties responsibly. You notice she mentioned herself, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm critiquing you, Your Honor. I don't I'm not disagreeing with your ruling, but you deserve critique, just like Linda Stanley did at the district attorney's office, going on a YouTube channel and being stupid. Don't blame the YouTuber for inviting her on, and blame the legal person, Linda Stanley, who went on, who went on that show. Don't blame JLR and unknown, other people that you mentioned, 20,000 of them, and say, well, you guys don't get anything because I say so. Okay, well, we're critiquing you. Encouraging witnesses to come forward, discouraging perjury, and allowing victims in the community to know that the offenders are being brought to justice. That's the big one here. This is about justice and mercy for Suzanne. Yes, he's presumed innocent, and we all get that. We all get that. Everybody does, and the jury will make that decision. But it doesn't mean we can't scrutinize the proceedings or talk about them. It doesn't mean we can't see a defense attorney like Ann Taylor say, Your Honor, we 100% stand with our client. He is 100%, no question about it, not the guy that killed the 4 college students at the University of Idaho off campus. We'll put everything we have on it, Your Honor, which, by the way, was unethical to say in the courtroom. And guess what? Every YouTuber, every podcaster in the country said, what did she just say? What? See, because we're not beholden to advertisers, corporate America. We don't have valves. We get to say what it is as long as it's within the guidelines of YouTube. Those are our parameters. Keep the community guidelines. Not every restriction on the public's access to criminal matters results in a constitutional violation. Thank you. There is a 4-part test announced in Waller to determine if a courtroom closure complies with the 6th Amendment. Has the party seeking to close the courtroom advance an overriding interest that is likely to be prejudiced? Well, this case has been going on for 4 years. And like you said, just type his name in Google. Okay. And, his name's going to come up because it's connected with all the other evidence that had already come out in the first, trial / before it was dismissed. Okay. Is the closure no broader than is necessary to protect the interest? Are there reasonable alternatives to closing the proceedings? Yes, there are. If you don't want the pretrial proceedings to be seen, heard, or scrutinized only by those attending the court proceedings in person, you have the right to do that. Shut it down. But don't shut it down under the pretense of everything gets shut down because of, I'm going to name one guy. Just one guy.
And then, just to your point, she names one person, and then she says, well, there were others, but they're unnamed. You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of, kids on the playground at school, and somebody says, so-and-so doesn't like you. And you're like, well, who? Who said that? Well, I'm not going to tell you. Well, does it exist? It's kind of like, be upfront. If you're accusing people of unlawfully broadcasting a live stream against the court's wishes, then you better name who they are, not just one. Otherwise, I think I'm going to call the bluff, and I just don't think she likes social media. And in my opinion, I think she's trying to use this position to shut all of it down, because clearly she's punishing everybody for what she says was misdoings of one or two.
And this is how naive that when you're throwing rocks at a glass, from a glass house, okay, what she did was open up the floodgate to 20,000 true crime podcasters. Okay. I mean, what she doesn't understand, and you're right, as Angela said here a moment ago, Court TV was asked not to zoom in, but they did it anyway. You're right. And if that's a mistake, the court should address it at that moment and put another pool camera in there and say, you can't follow the rules, so we're going to have this other pool camera in here. Okay. Bingo. Without those cameras in the courtroom, let's reverse that role. Miss Becky in Murdoch's case, okay, her behavior wouldn't have been as scrutinized had Harpootlian not had access to watch it in the courtroom for the appeal. And guess what? His case is being reconsidered. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. Okay. However, it's a two-edged sword. But the sheath is the public. If the media pulls out that sword and they don't handle it correctly, and I'm sure I've made mistakes in the past, I'm human, okay? But the public is the sheath. That when the media pulls the sword, it's so the public can see that there isn't some craziness going on here. I mean, look at Candace Owens for an example. She's off her rocker on this Tyler.
Yeah, let's stay focused on this for now, honey. Let's pull it back and let's just keep going. We got a couple more pages to go through.
That's why I married her. The Sixth Amendment guarantees a right to a trial that is open to the public, meaning that the public has a reasonable opportunity to be physically present to observe the proceedings. Nothing in my ruling will prevent that opportunity.
Okay, let's stop right there. We hear often there's a long line of the public trying to get into these popular trials and seating is limited. She knows darn well very few people from the public will be able to line up early, probably have to get there at, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. Those seats have to be filled by the victims' families, witnesses, mass media people. And, we just went through this with the Idaho killer. We thought there was going to be a trial. Even in that larger courtroom in Ada County, as an example, there was basically a lottery system that they set up that you had to email the night before to try to get a seat. Nobody was guaranteed a seat. All of this to say, she's saying, well, it's going to be public and open to the public to come in. Yeah, but your courtroom is limited in size and very few people from the public are going to get to watch it in person. And she knows it. Keep going.
Thank you for the Scooby snacks for Buddy. Happy Halloween.
Thank you, under your scars.
And yes, and thank you for all these great comments. You're amazing. You're amazing. Okay. In contrast, if I do not pause the unfettered live streaming of hearings in this case at best, the unlawful recordings and venomous commentary may affect both or either party's right to a fair trial by tainting the small jury pool through the prevalence of factual inaccuracies and the court of public opinion.
Let's stop right there. She's conflating two things again. Okay, go, Chris, and then I'll chime in.
The court of public opinion. I have been subject to the court of public opinion as a law enforcement officer, driven by overzealous defense attorneys. They said and did things about my character and about my life that lasted over 13 years. And to this day, if you type in Detective Chris McDonough, the case of Stephanie Crow and Michael Crow comes up on YouTube, on any kind of search. And they accused me, and to this day, people still do, of wrongdoing. And this judge could care less when the defense does that. They could care less. Look at all the ICE agents being doxxed in this country today. These judges like this could care less about the lives that they destroy or try to destroy. And for 13 years, I defended my character. And to this day, I still do. These judges are activists. They are not judges. They see it one way, and that is the only way they see it. And it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. And they don't see that the right to a fair trial, okay? I was the one that said, don't arrest this person, Richard Tuitt. You got the wrong guy. You know, they drug that guy, the schizophrenic, into trial, and ultimately he was found not guilty. So here's the question that I've always had and which I always try to defend. Okay. Who killed Stephanie? Because if you listen to the defense and you listen to these types of judges that let this happen, the cops did it. I killed her, according to that. And this is what he's doing to one YouTuber, she or he, whatever. This is what this judge is doing by blanketing their opinion across 20,000 other people and narrows it down to one. That is wrong.
Let me point out something else that she has written here. No, go the other way. Just drop it a little bit. Go the other way. Okay, stop. Up. Go back. Okay, so what she's saying is this paragraph. In contrast, if I don't pause the unfettered live streaming of hearings. Okay, so what she's saying is, hey, if I don't ban live streaming, the unlawful recordings and venomous commentary might affect the defendant's right to a fair trial and taint the jury pool. Okay, let's just break that down for a second. The live streaming, you're gonna be seating a jury while the live streaming is going on. So that to me is totally a non-starter. Okay. She's saying, well, if we live stream it, basically let everybody see what's going on, it's going to taint the jury pool. Well, how is being transparent going to taint the jury pool? And then she goes on, she talks about, well, it's going to create a lot more comments and factual inaccuracies, which is jargon for, I don't like the fact that people are commenting on this case. And then she goes on in the next sentence to say, while the impact of outside commentary is not uncommon in high-profile cases, what is occurring because of the behavior of the offending observers, meaning YouTube and social media, rises to a level of seriousness beyond that which something like a change of venue could resolve. Who's talking about a change of venue? Why is this judge introducing the idea, oh, well, the defendant can't get a fair trial, change the venue? What? That's not the way it works. Let the defense raise the issue of changing the venue. You can change the venue to Mars. It's not going to change the fact that you still have social media covering and giving commentary on this case. So to me, she's bringing up tainting the jury pool. She's bringing all these other issues that are not at her. They're not on the table for her. This is all about live streaming and live streaming only. But do you guys see how she's kind of pulling in and conflating everything together on these arguments?
Yeah, that is a great point. And look here, at worst, the calls for acts of violence against the parties and legal professionals would lead to someone being physically hurt. Your Honor, if anybody is doing that, then apply the law. Get hold of the marshals, get hold of the local authorities, have that person arrested.
You know what, Chris? It's a scare tactic in our environment today. She knows darn well the Tyler Robinson case is going on in neighboring Utah. Okay. I think she's stirring the pot because she's not dealing with facts in front of her. She's bringing in things that, to your point, oh, if somebody has threatened a judge, that's extremely serious. We don't condone it. I'm going to speak for people. Nobody's condoning that. But if show us where that's happening. If it's not, then this is like scare tactics of, what could or could not be happening.
Yeah. I mean, this judge knows that there are unhinged people that come to the courtroom every single day. That's why it's called the court. People come through a magnetometer. I mean, they go through a X-ray machine that goes beep, beep, beep to tell you if they're nut jobs or not. And they come right through the courthouse. Guess what? They're criminals. Sometimes they're criminals. Duh. Okay.
Let's keep going, because what I'm seeing, the next piece of this is also equally infuriating. Keep going.
Both the Colorado statute on live streaming and concomitant judicial policies allow for the suspension of access to live stream court proceedings. Well, all these are rules that apply in Colorado. Okay, so she's going to apply a 23 Colorado legislative mandate that criminal proceedings in open court be made available for remote public viewing and listening in real time. Okay, there are several. So this is basically what Colorado legislator said. No, you gotta allow the nut jobs, okay, as well as the normal people to live stream whatever they want. I'm sorry, Your Honor, that's the rules, but not in her case, because she cites only the limitations of why it shouldn't be happening. The courtroom does not have sufficient technological capabilities. You know who else used this? Latah County.
Exactly. Yep. We've seen this play before.
Latah County. Oh, Your Honor, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't until after they moved it to Ada County and after he took the deal that it came out that, well, we didn't have the capability, the staff, or anything like that. Meanwhile, it took them 2 years in that courtroom knowing that this is the excuses they were going to use as part of moving it to the other side, and the family suffered. And by the way, don't miss Sunday night, because we're going to talk about that kind of stuff with Steve and Christy and Dr. Picato. You're not going to want to miss that one on Sunday evening. Number 2, members of the public have been excluded from the criminal proceedings by order of the court. You, sir, are a nut job. You're not allowed in my courtroom. Escort him out.
Yeah, but that's few and far between, and it doesn't address the larger public scale. So it's a very weak argument. It's a point, whatever.
I concur. Technology, staffing, or internet issues limit or prevent remote observation. I guess they're the only ones with internet issues, the courthouse, because every 20,000 podcaster isn't having internet issues. And you were complaining about that earlier. Okay. We all seem to have pretty good internet with, a good internet provider. Maybe the court should upgrade. Okay. After request by a party witness or victim, or on the court's own motion, the court makes findings on the record based on the particular facts and circumstances of the case that there is a reasonable likelihood remote observation of live proceedings risk compromising the safety. This is cut right out of Ann Taylor's motions, for why we need to hide the identity of these other witnesses, et cetera. Okay. Including risk to physical and emotional safety. Emotional safety, what the heck is emotional safety? Would somebody please define that in the chat today? Somebody give me emotional safety. Do they not have comfort zones in the courthouse somewhere? Don't they have a room that they can throw a rug down, light some candles, put some zen in there?
This also goes to the earlier point, stirring the pot of fear, the fear tactic. We're getting threats as the people who lead the proceedings in the court, and now we have to protect the physical safety of people in the court. It didn't happen. Stop with the fear tactics. We've had enough.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the sheriff's department can, pull some of those bears out and walk down to the courtroom and hand one to all the staff, because everybody needs to hug something. This is like, the D. Thompson crying.
Yeah.
There's no crying in murder. No.
Not by the prosecutor. The victims can do it all day long.
Move on. Somebody, say emotional safety, intimidation and harassment. Because somebody's not emotionally safe, they feel next that they could be intimidated or harassed. Okay. The defendant's right to a fair trial. Well, then stay off the internet, Barry. Doggone it. Stay off the internet. You know better than that. Including violations of sequestration orders or the victim's rights pursuing to the victim's rights, et cetera. Well, Suzanne's the victim. So that doesn't apply. There is no less restrictive alternative that preserves the public's interest in remote observation while mitigating the identified risks, including allowing remote audio only observation while disbanding video observation, turning off remote observation. Why not? Turn off the camera and let the public hear the trial. Let the public stream the trial.
Yeah, like a radio address back in the day.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Buddy's not going to be offended. He may be emotionally scarred, but he won't be offended. The statute requires the court ensure there is no audio or visual recordings without the permission of the court and give examples of what reasonable steps must be taken in the same vein. The Colorado Judicial Department has already taken those steps, which it can, including several warnings that recording is forbidden. Well, apparently you didn't turn it off. And if you thought it was going to be an issue, okay, which you did because you addressed it, then you should have just reserved it for the trial and shut off the pretrial hearings. Turn the valve off. You control it. The judge controls it. Already taken these steps, which you can, including several warnings that the recording is forbidden. Additional measures are not possible in this situation, as explained below. The statute also allows the Supreme Court to prescribe rules of procedure in implementing the statute. The Supreme Court has done so via the Chief Justice Directive. This is the Colorado Supreme Court. Live stream criminal justice procedure. The CJD, Colorado Justice, provides a list of considerations that must be made before limiting live streaming. Whether there is a reasonable likelihood that live streaming would interfere with the rights of the parties to a fair trial. No, that's not in play here. Nobody is limiting the selection of a jury. Nobody. Whether you like the YouTuber or not, he's not limiting the selection of a jury. Who will be the decider of facts? The jury will decide whether or not Mr. Morphew is guilty or not guilty. That presumption of innocence still stands to this day under the Constitution of the United States, which is first and foremost, which trumps the Constitution of Colorado. Whether
Let's
there's
keep going.
whether there's a reasonable likelihood that live streaming would create any adverse consequence to a party, attorney, victim, or witnesses. That's not been shown either. Whether there is a reasonable likelihood that live streaming would unduly distract from the solemnity, decor, and dignity of the court. That's not either, because you control that, and it's been done in many high-profile cases across the United States, including O.J. Simpson. Judge Ito controlled all of that courtroom. I suspect you could do the same. Whether any prior violations of this director or any other rules of the courts have occurred in the same manner. The level of public interest in the case. How are you going to balance that level of interest? What criteria are you using to balance that criteria, to balance that interest? The fact that there are 20,000 podcast channels, is that your level of public interest in the case? Okay. Well, here's a note coming in. Okay. Those 20,000 do hundreds of cases. What makes yours any more important than the other 100 that YouTube channels do? In fact, I'm doing one this weekend about Koberger. What makes Barry so special? Okay. He's in the cycle. He's in a news cycle. That's all he is. Okay. P. Diddy was much more interesting. We're only here for Suzanne. We're not here for him. Consideration of the Victim Rights Act, whereby the victim has the right to be present in person, by phone, virtually, or audio or video or similar technology for all critical stages of the criminal justice proceeding. Well, it sounds like you had a technology issue, which you reported earlier, Your Honor, but apparently in this case, you're going to use it because he may not have access to some technology that would connect him with the court. Okay. Well, apparently he's on an ankle bracelet. Is that technology operating correctly? Asking for the public because this guy's out of custody. Consideration of the American Disability Act. Well, that has nothing to do with anything here. Furthermore, live streaming shall not occur when viewers conduct themselves.
Shall only occur. Yeah.
Shall only occur when viewers conduct themselves in a manner consistent with the solemnity, decor, and dignity of the courtroom. He's talking about.
Yeah, let's stop right there. Again, this goes to the point that she doesn't like, this judge doesn't like the fact that people comment and give opinions, and some people are obnoxious and make crude comments online. This is to what she's saying. So she's basically, I mean, this is outrageous that we're even reading this.
Well,
let's read it again. Live streaming.
Go ahead.
She's saying it's only going to occur when people act with decorum and dignity of the courtroom. Well, wait a minute, but we're talking about social media. It's a free-for-all, okay? It's covered under the First Amendment. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, this is only the party in the courtroom. If people start throwing things, go crazy, jump up and scream at the defendant, that's what this is referring to. It's not talking about,
kick them out. Yeah,
2
move
million
on.
other people watching from around the world. If
then it doesn't even apply to this argument.
If you're at home in your pajamas with a bag of popcorn, okay, and throwing it at the TV, it doesn't apply. It does not apply. And if some live streamer gave you that view from your living room, it's if they're in the courtroom doing that, yes, it applies. You can't eat popcorn in your pajamas in the courtroom and throw popcorn at the defendant. You can't do that.
Right, which is totally irrelevant to any of the points we're talking about. So it doesn't even warrant discussion. We're not talking about courtroom behavior.
Right. Further confirm the CJD further confirms that there should be no recording of any live stream proceeding, but that nothing in the CJC modifies the process of expanding media coverage. That means you can't touch live streaming outside of the courtroom. You can't use one person and punish 19,999 others. And then unnamed YouTubers. Okay. You can't do that. You can't do that. Okay. And people are going to speak up. I think the mainstream media is going to speak up. First, the offending observers and some commenting on their unlawful recordings. The offending observers? Wow.
Right, and she's which are the unnamed YouTubers that she claims unlawfully live streamed the last hearing, the September hearing.
Outright threatened harm against me. Then, Your Honor, have them arrested.
Exactly. Yeah,
have them arrested. Don't just say it. You're an officer of the court, and you're right. That type of behavior is unacceptable. I will arrest them for you. Give me the authority. I'll go find them. I'll hook them up and I'll deliver them to the court. Okay. But don't punish me because they have done something stupid. Don't punish others. Don't punish Court TV. Don't punish NBC, Fox, all these other channels. Why are you punishing us? We haven't threatened you. Are you kidding me? It's not good. I haven't threatened any attorneys, nobody. I've commented about the defendant, which is my right to do that. But, on both sides, the defendant, most assuredly the victims of this matter. You mean Suzanne? Where are there plural? Did he kill more than one? Has he killed more than one person, allegedly? While these types of threats towards those involved in the justice system are unfortunately no longer uncommon, well, no, they are uncommon. You don't make threats to anybody in the justice system. That's crazy. And if our countries come to that, Your Honor, let's take a stand together and stop it. You can't do that. Anybody listening to this live stream, do not threaten anybody in the system for doing their jobs. That goes for ICE officers as well. That goes for law enforcement officers in this country. That goes for the President of the United States, Congress people. Let's start there from the top down to the streets in this country. Let's stop it and start being Americans. Towards those individuals involved, towards those involved in the justice system are unfortunately no longer uncommon. Individuals who are either followers or like-minded to the offending observers. You mean tribalism? One thought process? They call that communism. The offending observer have taken its steps further by doing things like doxing the former judge on this matter.
Okay, we have to pause and I have to explain what that is and where that came from. So by this judge referring to doxing the former judge on the matter, let's think back. If you followed Barry Morphew's 1.0 arrest under Linda Stanley, the prosecutor, in all of the well, I don't even know what the right way to say it is, but in all the BS that all the things that Linda Stanley did wrong regarding the prosecution of the first time Barry was arrested for the first murder trial. Linda Stanley herself, go back and Google this. She called out the judge. She actually had an investigation into the judge. I'm not even going to go into the details because it was so ridiculous. You guys can go and read it for yourself. But the prosecutor initiated an unheard of investigation into the judge in the case. Okay. So by Linda Stanley doing that, it set off, and again, I'm not justifying that people on social media or not on social media, whatever, went after that particular judge. I'm just saying that the ball got rolling from the prosecutor. Well, the prosecutor was subsequently brought up on a whole host of ethics charges, kicked out of the state of Colorado, and she cannot practice law. Okay, so the doxing didn't start from social media. It was an extension of the prosecutor illegally doing an illegal investigation on the judge that she didn't like. So I just wanted to make that clear. Why this judge is bringing that into this case is, to my point, in my opinion, I think she's stirring the pot she's presenting very extreme things in order to make her point on this decision. That's my opinion.
You want to know the irony here? While she's calling out all these people and doxing, she just put a huge target on JLR. Think about that. This is a judge from the bench in a courtroom talking about doxing, and then names a YouTuber with allegations of threats against her, comments against her, and anybody who may have done that. But she doesn't realize she's not looking in the mirror here and saying, hey, I need to tell you something to the world, which, by the way, this is going worldwide. You have a judge saying, don't you dare dox anybody, but I'm going to tell you about JLR Investigates, one YouTuber out of 20,000 podcasters. Think about that, the power that she has to say that and do that. The former judge on this matter sending threatening letters to the home and work addresses of attorneys involved in the case, and leaving a dead fox on the porch of one of the attorney's homes. Okay, well, what do the 20,000 other people who didn't do this have to do with this problem? I didn't do that. None of my other colleagues that I know who are, doing this didn't do that. And trust me, I'm not a fan of a lot of people. Okay. But I'm also fair, firm, and friendly. And I don't agree with you, Your Honor, in throwing one guy under the bus, whether I like him or not. Okay. You're doing exactly what you're telling in this motion not to do. If you felt that you're not going to name the other people, the people doing this, then why did you name him? So that the rest of the true crime community can say, look what he did that caused, this problem. You know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Whether we like him or not is irrelevant. You have put a target on him in the defense of your courtroom in Barry Morphew not having a target on him. So what you've done is you've reversed the roles so that other social media, in which we all know how crazy it can get out there, we've all been victims of it. Trust me, Your Honor. Okay. That you've actually level set somebody that was probably irrelevant in the long run, but you have given them relevance by identifying their names and throwing them to the public, to the court of public opinion, to use your analogy. Okay. I just think it's wrong. I think it's wrong. There could have been another way of wording it, for the public to say, you know what, we're just not going to have any live streaming. That's the order of the court during the hearings here. End of story. However, I will take into consideration an argument from both sides in relationship to the trial. And all the media would have weighed in. Okay. But what you're doing here is you don't understand the power of these platforms. And you have just stirred it up. And guess what? If something happens to JLR, I hope you realize you'll be the first one depositioned.
All right, let's keep moving on.
That is beyond the pale of simple commentary on their work to hold them accountable or disagreement with my decisions or the course of this case. These are terrifying, unlawful attempts at intimidation and harassment that have no place in our justice system. I agree. Second, Alamosa County has a comparatively small jury pool. While I would never prevent generally publicity of any case that is of interest to the community, that publicity will likely prevent at least some in our small jury pool from being fair and impartial jurors on this matter. Let's
stop right there for a minute. That is probably almost word for word the Latah County excuse that we heard. It's interesting how similar that argument is. Again, the weird part in this case, it's coming from the judge assigned to the murder case, rather than in Latah County, you heard it from the prosecutor and the defense.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay, keep going. Yeah.
The actions of the offending observer threatened to exacerbate the problem by showing parts of the proceedings and its participants that the credentialed media, for good reason, are prevented from showing, and by making statements purported to have some sort of inside information that would not even be provided to the jury because it's not real or actual fact. Okay, fine. In the courtroom, that can all be laid out. End of story. I mean, have you ever heard of the National Enquirer? Spaceships, abduct Bill Clinton. I think most people can figure out that probably didn't happen. But maybe it did. I don't know. Okay. I'm just saying. Every magazine at the Walmart checkout stand would not fall into this category. I'm sure of it. Any less restrictive remedies would prove fruitless. The Colorado Judicial Department has posted in several places admonitions against precisely the type of behavior which has occurred, recording live streams. These warnings were ignored and even included the unlawful reproduced material. Switching to an audio-only format would not prevent threats and harassment towards the parties or the victims. I mean, I don't get this piece of the puzzle. It's not going to stop if these people feel that they need to be doing that kind of stuff. I don't, a court order is not going to stop a nut job from walking into the courtroom through those, security measures. People are nuts sometimes. And I think the court knows that. And this is kind of like, word salad. No. Switching to the auto format. Even the auto has not reproduced descriptions of individuals involved in the case, and threatening behavior towards them are unlikely to cease. Am I missing something, Karen?
No, let's keep going.
Departments now having technological capacity to monitor participation in live stream, let alone the staff, to then check various social media outlets to ensure no violations of the admonition against recordings have occurred.
Well, let's stop. Then why is she naming and calling out one YouTube person if they have no idea who's on the other end of the live streaming to know what they did or didn't do? Isn't that a little contradictory?
Great question. That is a great question. Huh. It would not be judicially economic to proceed with citations because it would cost them too much money. Okay. All these people making all these threats, leaving, animals on people's porches. And maybe it was Barry. He's the one that likes to shoot animals, It would not be economically, to proceed with citations for contempt of court against all the offending observers. You mean you can be contempt of court without even being in the courtroom by watching TV? You mean every time I turn on court TV and I don't like what court TV says because they're streaming it, is she saying that the observers can be held in contempt of court? Is that what I'm reading here, or am I misinterpreting what she's saying here?
Well, she's saying, well, we're not going to pursue charges or cite people doing this behavior. Okay, then why call it out as bad behavior if you're not doing anything about it? Why not just deal with it?
Yeah, she goes, and it would be unfair and perhaps unconstitutional. You think? That somebody sitting at home?
Then why shame somebody? Then why, literally, is what you're trying to do here, why shame somebody in a 10-page motion?
Right, because she points it out right to him. She doxes him right here for contempt of court against only those individuals like JLR Investigates. Wow. Who else is like JLR Investigations? I would like to know.
I mean, that's like accusing somebody of a crime, but then saying, well, I'm not going to press charges. Well, then why call it out if you're not going to see it through to a solution? Is the reason that it's bogus to begin with? I think that's a fair question.
Whose true identities can be known? Well, of course. That, there's no hidden secrets. My name is right there below me. Like the other 20,000, podcasters out there. We're not doing stupid stuff. Finally, nothing in this order prevents the credentialed media from reporting on this case. Well, okay, what's the credentialed media today? Karen, talk about credentials.
So credentialed media is that you have literally a media pass that you work for and you get paid by a company. As opposed to, I decided that, for example, I'm going to be a citizen journalist. I'm going to start my own YouTube channel. I'm going to call myself a reporter. I'm going to go to trials, but I work for myself because I have my own YouTube channel. So they're making a distinction between, again, people who work for, let's say, Court TV or any of the big networks.
Okay, so here's a question. When Ted Turner started CNN, was he a credentialed journalist?
Yes. Well, he was the company owner and he hired journalists. He
Ah,
didn't claim to be a journalist.
interesting in of itself. So he started his own company, kind of like a YouTube channel if you open it up under an LLC, correct? And you hire
Perhaps, yeah.
your wife, who is a journalist with a journalism degree and credentials. So are we considered a credentialed journalistic program?
So let me set your question aside for a second. This sentence goes to the whole point about her motion, and we said this from the beginning. She doesn't like social media. She doesn't like people having the constitutional right to comment on social media. Thus, the whole reason for the motion is right here. She revealed her cards. It's right here. Okay. She is making a huge distinction between credentialed media, i.e., as we said, Court TV, Law and Crime, the networks, versus people on YouTube. Okay. Let me just make a point here. Her last sentence on that says, the public is welcome to observe the proceedings in person. Again, the courtroom is small. She just told us it's a small place, right? You're not going to even, who knows if you could have 5, 10, 15 seats for the public. It's a cop-out, in my opinion. Yes, of course, the public would always be welcome, but the whole reason you have media in there watching, I made this point earlier, is because you can't have 100,000 or 100 million people from the public go in. That's what the media serves its purpose. That's why they sit there and report on what goes on. Again, she doesn't like social media. Apparently, she only wants credentialed media in her courtroom. She makes it very clear.
Okay, but because we are an LLC as a YouTube channel, and you are a credentialed journalist, here's my question. Would she allow you in the courtroom?
No, she would not.
And the reason?
And the reason being, it all goes back to who the employer is and who pays for the journalist.
Okay, so
I get it. I
though,
get that you're saying, well, I could be a legitimate journalist like I am, and I'm on YouTube. Okay. Self-employed type of thing. She's making the distinction. Credentialed media has to be from, again, an entity a for-profit entity, most likely, maybe a nonprofit entity that has, that is not a person on social media. Whether we like it or not, this is the distinction she's making.
So if somebody makes a song and puts it on Spotify as an artist, are they artists? And do they have a right to make money and have people hear their music independent of a record label? Or would they be allowed into the courtroom under the same, meaning using the same analogy across the board? Remember, record companies did the same thing. They tried to say, no, you can't do that. Streaming companies cannot exist. Okay. Spotify, Sean Ryan can't have his own podcast because, he's not a credentialed media guy. No, but he brought his skill set to the internet to talk about his experiences. And he's got millions and millions of followers, and other people, whether we like them or not, she pulls JLR out of the hat. Okay. Whether we agree with him or not, but he's got almost 500,000 people that follow him. That's a lot of people. Sometimes that's more people than that follows some of the major news networks. Okay. At night. So she's saying, well, that person doesn't fit in the category of credentialed media because I say so. But you,
Correct.
okay, but you, who has a degree in journalism, who worked as a reporter and a journalist, you can see your name 1,000, 10,000 times if people Google you. And by the way, can I tell them your writing name?
Yeah, I don't care. Yeah.
Okay, well, you tell them. I mean,
It's my maiden name, which was Smith. So I did articles for years under the byline Karen Smith. But I think I know what you're getting at here. Again, I'm just saying that what she doesn't understand is that actually, arguably, credentialed media has a smaller audience than social media. Okay. The networks are going down the tubes. Network shows get far fewer viewers than what mid-range channels on YouTube get. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
And,
okay.
and
Good point, Linda. But
and
I'm just saying, whether we like it or not, and I don't like what this judge is doing, she's making the distinction between credentialed media, again, the old standard, right? Big media and networks versus social media. She is trying to keep social media people out of the courtroom from covering this. It's clear. She says so. She tells us.
yeah, and just, for the record for everybody, Karen still writes and still places articles around the country. She wrote one recently or a while back for International Association of Chiefs of Police, ICP, about technology. She's written for Major League Baseball. She used to write articles for art. Used to cover art. Yeah, I mean, she's interviewed Baryshnikov. You wrote an article on Baryshnikov, if I remember
I've
right.
done lots of articles on famous people in many, many different publications over the years. Yeah, but I'm the exception, and that's not what she's actually talking about. She's
Well,
making the distinction, right, between people who start their channels on social media and cover true crime in these cases versus people who are employed as reporters and journalists. I'm just telling you the difference.
and
Okay.
Karen has written a book, and you can get it in the link in this particular broadcast.
Right.
Not for a shameful plug, but I'm very proud of her.
Right.
She's
Thank
done
you,
a
honey.
lot. And but my point is, if you were to go to the courtroom, let's say we decide, you know what, let's just go there, and you go into the courtroom and cover it daily. What will you have to show to get through that door based on this ruling?
So I would be allowed in as a member of the public, but I don't have a media credential from a large network, which is what she's particularly talking about. And you know what? It's going to be interesting because let's see how the court deals with that when they're faced with it. You're going to have people from large channels, very large true crime channels. Are they going to be considered credentialed media or not? It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think she's opening a can of worms here without thinking it through of how this is actually going to play out.
Yeah, I think she left herself an opening here because here's her order. Therefore, the defendant's unopposed motion to cease unmonitored live stream of court proceeding is hereby granted. Nothing in this order changes the manner in which any victim, the defendant's family, or the staff of the respective attorney's offices may access this proceeding. Credential media may access and report on the proceedings as outlined in the amended order presumptively granting requests for expanded media coverage. So it sounds like they may let a pool camera in. And if that happens, then everybody's just going to pull from that pool camera.
Well, Chris, don't you see what she's doing in saying this? She's making it clear. Here's the people coming in. Okay. The defense, the defendant's family members, the prosecution, anybody connected with the victims' families, any of the attorneys, any credentialed media, everybody come on in. She's not saying, hey, we're going to have chairs for social media people. It's specifically excluded here in this motion. And I guarantee you, if she's saying that now you're going to have members of the public who want to come and watch it, and the social media people are going to have to be lumped into that category of just the public, because they are. And so there's going to be a fight over the chairs, if you will. Okay.
And how will they sort through that, do you think?
It's a great question. The question's going to be, for your limited public seating, how are you going to allow people in? She's got plenty of examples to choose from. She can do what Ada County was planning on doing with the Koberger case, and I think they did it with the Chad Daybell case. They did the lottery system, and they did it with email. You had to email the court the night before to get a chair, to get a seat for the next day's coverage. Yeah, standing in line. Right, exactly. So I think she's now, making it a lot more difficult for, again, people on social media who want to go cover it.
It's going to be interesting, because now, even here towards the last couple of sentences, she goes, members of the general public may attend the proceedings held in open court in person, subject to the following conditions. Only so many people would be permitted to enter the courtroom as can safely fit in the public gallery, less accommodations for the victims, the defendant's family, and the row reserved for the credentialed media.
Told you. We just said this an hour ago, right?
Yeah, one court just let in Fox News and Ocean 34. I absolutely loved your comment. They have to show I'm not a nut job. I love it. It was hysterical. Thank you for making me laugh. Okay, so there's a row for credentialed media. Members of the public will not be permitted. Members of the public will not be permitted. Now she's going to control what kind of devices come into the courtroom. To bring into the courthouse any cell phone, she says the courthouse. So she's restricting it not to the courtroom, but to the building. Any cell phone, laptop, tablet, or any other electronic device capable of recording.
See, that's unusual. Usually they restrict it from the courtroom, but you can bring it in the courthouse, because if you're not letting cameras in, the reporters, the credentialed media, get up, they go outside into the hall, and then they do like a live stand-up or a recording or whatever. And so she's really making it hard.
Yeah, I mean, this is very interesting. And any device capable of recording. Well, does that mean from the court staff too? Because we just saw a breach of that in Brian Koberger's jail recording. We know that there are some staffers that will violate the rules. Well, what happens to one of them? How is she going to hold them accountable? Not the public, because that wasn't the public that did that. It was a jail staffer who subsequently is resigned, but it wasn't.
Yeah, no consequence. No consequence.
Yeah, until it was leaked to the public. So how is she going to control, the courthouse? What about her staff? Is she going to restrict phones into the building? Any recording devices? Look at Miss Becky. She just wrote a book and was alleged to, no, I'm just using this as an example. How is she going to control everybody, including, when we say the public, including the staff? Everybody is the public at that point in a court proceeding. That's the whole building is the public. And what if you're coming in for another case in another courtroom and you need your laptop? Are you going to argue with the people at the front door? Are other attorneys allowed to bring in laptops for other courtrooms? Or is she going to have to amend this order? Because there are going to be other court cases going on that people are going to need their electronic devices and recording devices. I think she made a mistake here. She should have said into my courtroom, her courtroom. Members of the public must comply with all verbal and written instructions given by security or law enforcement. So basically, Your Honor, I'm here for Division 4. Yeah, but the Division 2 judge said you can't have this phone in here. I said, well, yeah, but I'm texting my attorney. That's attorney-client privilege information because I'm a defendant in Division 4. Well, you got to leave your phone here, man. No. How am I going to be in touch with my attorney? Can you see where that will go? Holy cow.
Yeah, I think she made a mistake.
This is going to turn into a Donnybrook at the front, at the security gate. And this just goes to show you they don't think through this stuff. They react and don't think through the process. Any person, including members of the public, credentialed media, a victim, a member of the defendant's family, or members of an attorney staff who record photographs or otherwise behaves. And so basically she's saying they can have phones because she's saying they may be able to record, okay, who records photographs or otherwise behaves in contradiction of this order will be removed from the courtroom, will not be permitted to attend further proceedings, and may receive a citation for contempt of court. As this case continues, I may reinstate the ability to view certain proceedings via live streaming, depending on the circumstances of the particular hearing. So basically what she did here was everything I just said, I could change my mind, but I just said it anyway.
I may reverse myself on this whole thing.
Meanwhile, I just threw a guy under the bus around the world, which will make the Daily Mail, which will make all the news. In fact, it's even a headline already. YouTuber prevents whatever. What was that headline we already read?
It was worse. It said something like unlawful YouTuber violates judge order or something. I can't remember, but that headline was pretty damaging.
Yeah, that's the point of this broadcast today. Okay. The headlines have already started. Okay. And so here's a question of fairness. Is that fair to citizen journalists and 20,000 other podcasters quoted in this order who aren't violating the rules? Is it fair to condemn the process of one to then punish 19,999 or maybe a couple others because she hasn't named them, and which is curious why she wouldn't have named them. Okay, but she names one And whether we agree or not, again, let's go back to that principle, with whoever. Okay. I try not to judge that, people's actions until they show me, that they what they're really made of. Okay. And I get it. Trust me, I get it. But I'm not that one person. So why am I being punished for not being able to live stream the hearing or the court proceedings of this individual who's on trial and presumed innocent as a presumption of innocence? And why am I not allowed to have an opinion when I see a court proceeding play out in real time? Why am I being held to a standard that I've not violated? I didn't do any of the things that the judge made allegations to in the court ruling. I'm not putting dead animals on, attorneys, doorsteps or making threats of anything against the courts. Are you kidding me? This is my wall of shame. That goes against every piece of my fiber. So I'm real curious as to see how far this is going to go. And my feeling is two things. The Constitution matters. Number one, the checks and balances of the Constitution are being manipulated in today's society by activist judges. I'm not saying she's an activist or he, I don't even know what the judge is. But opinions like this in small town rural America that the public is showing interest in, it should be weighed to the public's interest, and their curiosity is even more of a reason why these judges should err on the side of fairness down the middle. Not fairness to the defendant only. The public has a right to know. And today's mediums are robust to get that information out around the world. I want to know what's going on in Ireland. I want to know what's going on in the UK. I want to know what's going on in New York City, LA, Houston. I want to know what's happening around the world so that I can make decisions freely under the First Amendment that I believe will affect me and my family and those around me. I would submit I am no different than a million other people around the world. They want to know, and they have a right to know. Now, whatever that means, yes, we need to balance the rights of the defendant. That makes sense. But he doesn't have all the rights. That's what the Constitution's about. It's a balance. It's 100% of a balance. Because look at the rights of the families that were not told what was going to happen until the day of it happening. What rights do they have? Post convictions, post people going to prison. If you want to hear about that, be here on Sunday. We have Christy and Steve coming with Dr. Bricado to talk about the struggles that they're having now that the courts are releasing bit by bit, piece by piece information. And they're getting that information. They're getting that information now and just reading it and learning about it. Imagine being a mother of a daughter and reading about just now the veracity of the slaughter.
So what I'm going to do is wrap up this piece and just share with you that I do think that this judge's motion will be fought. I hope that the credentialed media that she beloves and talks about in this motion, I hope they understand that they need to get a camera in there. And I think they do. I definitely think, I don't think this is the end of it. Certainly this judge has revealed her thoughts, ideas, and I think influences. I think she shared that, made it very plain in this particular motion. And I don't think it's the end of it. I think this will be fought. And I'm going to remain optimistic based on the forces that be that understand the importance of having a camera in the courtroom. I don't see it happening this week. I don't think it's going to happen that quickly, but I do think there's going to be pushback, and that's the good news. I think transparency always has to be at the forefront. That's the whole point of our Constitution and the First Amendment, and the whole point of having a public trial. So I think this may have a better outcome than what we're seeing today. And I would also just say, to Chris's point earlier, we're looking forward to having Christy and Steve Gonzalez on our show on Sunday with Dr. Gary Bricado. And we hope to see you then.
Yeah, well said, hon. All right, aloha, everybody, and happy Halloween. Go out there and get the candy. Aloha. Thank you for being with us. See you Sunday. Take care.
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts. Wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah. Make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away. You and me go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. I need a summer breeze, some fresh air to put my mind at ease. No cares. You wanna come with me? Me and you go to our favorite tree. Are you ready now? We jump on a plane now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. We'll never come down. We're going away. Yeah, we're going away. You and me. Feeling the sun on my face in a while.